Well, wasn't the result we wanted, but that's okay. It's not okay, but we'll see what happens. Welcome into Devil's Advocate with Richie Bradshaw as we discuss all things Sun Devils football and more. It's game day previews, it's recruiting, and all the news you need for the Arizona State Sun Devils. I am Richie Bradshaw. We are going to break down ASU's unfortunate, maybe season-ending loss to the Houston Cougars over the weekend. There's good in the game. There's a lot of bad in the game. There's a lot of takeaways from the game. All of that is coming up before we get started. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you haven't hit subscribe yet, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We have already surged over 100 subscribers. I appreciate you guys so much. We will set a goal for ourselves eventually, but right now the climb has been awesome. Hit the like button. Go ahead and drop a comment, reply to all those. Let's have a good time talking ASU football, or at least as good a time as we can, because ASU did not get the result that they wanted to over the weekend, losing to Houston at home 24-16. Going into the game, I had mentioned Houston was definitely a slept on football team, and they were a very competitive team. And Willie Fritz had them going in the right direction. And Connor Weigman was a very, very good quarterback for them. They had the weapons offensively, and their defense played some really good football against ASU, which we saw because they shut out ASU, not just for the first half, but the first 3 quarters of the game. ASU was off the scoreboard. And so much credit needs to go to Houston and the way that they came in with a defensive game plan to just pummel ASU. And that's what they did for 45 plus minutes, is they just were doing whatever they wanted. And there was a lot of self-inflicted wounds from ASU, which we'll talk about. And the officiating was dreadful. That is one of the worst officiated games I've ever seen as a Sun Devils fan, to the point where fans are throwing bottles and trash onto the field. Really quick, that does nothing. Literally nothing. All it does is slow the game down, and it throws potential penalties onto Arizona State. I'm shocked that the officials, at least on the television broadcast, we didn't hear it, but they did not issue a warning to the crowd of, hey, you need to stop, or this is going to be a personal foul, 15 yards assessed against the Sun Devils. Like, we cannot do that. If that's not enough, perceptually, the way that people see the Sun Devils program right now, they're on the climb. They really are. They just came off an 11-win season, won the Big 12 in their first year. They are headed towards another winning season. Unfortunately, they've hit a few road bumps. They're competing in the Big 12 now. Their chances have taken a massive hit, and I don't know if they rebound from this. It's mathematically possible, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit later this week. Later this week, I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about Kenny Dillingham, recruiting, all that good stuff, because there's a lot going on in college football that could affect all of that for ASU if you haven't been paying attention. Lots of firings, lots of recruiting shakeups. We'll talk about it. That's coming up later in the week. So again, if you're not subscribed, great reason to subscribe, and especially to turn on notifications so you get the update when that content gets thrown up. But let's focus back in on the game, because there was a lot that went wrong for ASU in this game. They got shut out for 3 quarters. They got punked on offense. Their defense really struggled. It was on and off. There were some great moments, and there were some, oh my gosh, they're getting demolished moments in this game. It was far too inconsistent. And they were already dealing with Jordan Tyson injured. Sam Leavitt left the game at one point. He came back into the game and then he was pulled by the end of the game. He already missed a game earlier this year due to injury. Sam is clearly not 100%. That is a problem. That is a big problem. And not having Jordan Tyson in this game was already something that really hurt ASU. This was simply not what ASU could afford to happen. This was a worst case scenario, the way that this game ended up playing out. Like I can't think of anything that could have gone worse for ASU. Truly, you lose at home. That snapped a 10-game home streak. In itself, very impressive. You're not going to win home games every single time for the rest of eternity. You're going to lose games at home. It happens. And you lost to a really good Houston team. And I need ASU fans to hear that. Because I think a lot of fans look and they go, we lost to Houston? Houston's not even good. No, Houston is very good. Not just good, they're very good. I compared their trajectory to ASU's. How in year one of Willie Fritz, which was last year, they were losing record, but they're in games. They're really tough. They won a game or two that they shouldn't have won, but it's a team rebuilding. And then in year two, they made the right moves. They got a transfer quarterback. That seems to be the key for a lot of good stuff to happen. And now they're 7-1. And they are almost in control of their own destiny to make the Big 12 title game. Awesome stuff. I actually don't have any issues with Houston. If ASU ends up completely eliminating themselves from the Big 12 title game, and they are mathematically still in it, just so you know, if they get to that point, I think Houston might be the team I root for. I have personal biases against the city of Cincinnati and the state of Ohio. I do like the Bearcats. I wouldn't have an issue with them. I'm not rooting for Tech. I consider them a rival for ASU. I will be gosh darned before I root for either team in the state of Utah. I think those are your competitors right now, your major competitors. So that's kind of where I would stand if ASU were to get completely eliminated. Is Houston number one? Probably by a lot. Cincy, and then really everybody else, because I don't think K-State or TCU are going to turn it around, even though they're also technically still in the race. Big 12 is wide open. 8 teams are still in the race. And even 3 lost teams can find a way, but it's not in your control. That's kind of where ASU is at. A lot is out of your control. You have to win out. That's what happened when you lost to Houston. Now, don't get me wrong. You already were in a scenario where you basically had to win out. When you lost to Utah, that was a bad sign. But what's gotten worse is you have 2 teams that are undefeated in conference play. And you have, I think, 3 teams that are, nope, it's just 2 teams. 2 teams that are 4-1 in conference play. And there is a team at 3-2 that has a tiebreaker over you. That is a really, really tough situation that ASU has to overcome. The good news is ASU's overall record does not impact the Big 12 race. It does impact if they make the college football playoff as an at-large bid, which that feels like a less than 1% chance of happening. ASU's got to win the Big 12 championship. They're not going to get in any other way at this point. Not until it inevitably expands to 24 teams, which I am very much against. Very much against. But you know what? We don't have time for that. We have time to talk about the Sun Devils. And this loss to Houston was about as big a worst case scenario as I can think of. You have dramatically impacted your ability to get to the Big 12 title game and therefore get into the college football playoff for a second consecutive year. That is almost out the window. Mathematically, it's still there. Probably about less than 20%. It's better than I thought. It is. So the season's not over, but you need a lot to go your way, and it starts with finishing the year 4-0. This was a bad loss. This is a really bad loss. And unfortunately, it's a team that is contending for the title. So you now have two teams in Utah and Houston that have tiebreakers over you. You need them to find a way to lose two more Big 12 games. Utah only needs one. Houston needs to lose two. You just got to find losses somewhere in there. Again, this is something we'll talk about down the road. Really quick, if you are on Twitter, first of all, definitely follow the Devil's Advocate page. That's Devil's ADVPOD on Twitter if you want to hit that follow. I just put out a rooting guide for the upcoming weekend, and I'll be doing that for the remainder of the season as long as ASU stays in contention for the Big 12 title race. But this loss to Houston took a huge stab at that. I think that's a good segue for us to go ahead and get started with the core of the show, which is the good, the bad, and the takeaways. We, of course, will start with the good. So the good that came from this game for the Sun Devils, there was a little bit more than you would think. This actually was a a measuring stick game for the Sun Devils that showed some things that we were happy to see, and none more so. And this is the biggest good that came from the game, and it's not even close, is that Sam Leavitt is still capable of being a good quarterback without Jordan Tyson. In fact, the passing game still looked solid overall without Jordan Tyson. 328 passing yards between Sam Leavitt and Jeff Sims, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Now, they were barely above 50% completion, but we'll talk about one of the reasons why that did not come to be a little bit later. They spread the ball around, and guys stepped up. Someone I have been hypercritical of this year has been Malik McClain. ASU has been trying to figure out since spring who's the number 2 receiver on this team. You lose Jake Smith, Melcon Stovall, Troy O'Mary, Xavier Guillory. That's who it was. You lost 4 of your top 5 receivers from 2024. And you had almost nothing on your bench that had any not sustainable, significant numbers to look back on. Malik McClain had 3 catches. Derek Eusebio had 1 catch. There was not much on the current roster going into the year that you were like, okay, well, we have Jordan Tyson. That's great. Shavon Mateer is a stud number 1 tight end. What is going on at receiver? Malik McClain was the first and obvious answer for being number 2. Prior to this game against Houston, he was non-existent. He had 6 receptions, right? 2, 3, 4. Yep, 6 receptions for under 60 yards. It was not good at all. Longest catch was 15 yards. Against Houston, he was asked to be the number 1 receiver. Jordan Tyson is out. He's dealing with a hamstring. Yeah, it's not great. But he goes out and he records a collegiate career game for himself. 7 receptions for 159 yards. Now, to put that in perspective, Malik McClain has spent 5 years in college football. His career best in receiving yards for a season is 210. He has that this year. His 159 receiving yards from this game is slightly less than the 190 and the 206 that he had for Florida State in the first 2 years of his career. This was a massive game for Malik McClain, for himself, and especially for the Sun Devils, who needed him to step up, and he stepped up. 7 for 159, a long of 36. It's not like he had an 80-yard play that made up a chunk of that. He did have chunk receptions throughout the game. He stepped up. And he certainly shut the mouth of haters, not haters, doubters, and critics like myself. I'm not a Malik McClain hater, but I certainly had a lot of question marks going into this game of can he be the guy? Well, he was the guy. Will he be the guy moving forward? That's tough to say because Jordan Tyson is just he suctions all the targets in. He's a vacuum. He just give me 15 of Sam Leavitt's 25 targets. Okay. Well, that's not a bad thing because we know what he can do, but it does handicap the rest of the offense. There's a reason why Malik McClain more than doubled the amount of receptions that he had for the season because of a game where he got much more opportunities. That stuff happens. Now we're going to see whether or not that's going to be this is going to be rather the kind of game that propels him moving forward and the kind of game that ends up being what he needed. It's going to jumpstart the remainder of the year. Maybe right now he's at 210 receiving yards. Maybe by the end of the year he can finish over 500. That'd be huge. That'd be awesome to see Malik McClain be able to wrap things up at that point. But that was very good. Is Malik McClain stepped up? He is good in his own right. But back to the good of this passing attack and Sam Leavitt looking good without Jordan Tyson. This had to happen. I had made a bold prediction that ASU was going to have what did I say? Did I say 5 receivers? 4 receivers that were going to have multiple receptions? I did say. I said 5 players will have multiple receptions, and Shimon Matera would be the lead receiver. Shimon Matera was second with 55 yards. That is over 100 less than Malik McClain had. But let's count them out. I said 5 players would have multiple receptions. Malik McClain had 7. Shimon Matera had 4. Jalen Moss had 2. First of all, great to see Jalen Moss out there. Cameron Harpole had 2 and a touchdown. I want to talk about him a little bit as well. Raleek Brown had 2. Jaron Hamilton had 2. Should have had more. Derek Eusebio had 2. Man Robinson had 2. Kamari Anderson was the only player with a single catch. So 8 players, count them. 8 players had at least 2 catches. They distributed that football, and they did a very good job. Sam Leavitt did an awesome job putting the ball all over the field. He trusted his guys in Malik McClain to go up and make plays. He put his trust into the tight ends. It was awesome to see that the tight ends combined for 7 receptions and 2 touchdowns. Both of the receiving touchdowns that ASU had came courtesy of the tight end. There should have been a third one, but that's a whole thing that we'll talk about later. This was a great game for Sam Leavitt, for the passing attack, for Kenny Dillingham, for Marcus Arroyo, for Malik McClain, for everybody else to say, hey, Jordan Tyson's not here, but we can still manage to do really good things. That was an awesome sight to see. Going into this game, Arizona State had a whopping, if I can find it, 9 passing touchdowns on the year, and 8 of them belonged to Jordan Tyson. The only other one was Shimon Matera. They had 2 more in this game, and they did not go to Jordan Tyson because he didn't play this game. They went to the tight ends. We have been shouting from the rooftop for months. Get the tight end involved. Get Shimon Matera involved. Get Kamari Anderson, AJ Ia. Just get those guys involved. And then Cameron Harpole. What an awesome story he has been this year. I definitely need to sing his praises more than I had been previously. But this was a really good game for the quarterbacks to step up and show we don't need Jordan Tyson to be the entirety of the passing attack. They certainly need him to be the core of it, but they got it done. And more than good enough got it done. 328 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. That's an outstanding day for any quarterback. To do that without their number 1 receiver, it's also pretty good. And again, for Sam specifically, 18 of 35. It's barely 50%. I get it. That's tough when there's also some drops. We'll talk about it. I'm sure I have said that once or twice on the show already. This was a really, really, really good game for Sam Leavitt. And I have to imagine there was a lot of NFL scouts that were dialed into this game. NFL teams that need a quarterback. And they're looking and they're going, can Sam Leavitt be our guy? Well, we like what he does. He's a good passer. He's got a good arm. He can run. But can he do enough without Jordan Tyson? That was a big question. He did that in 2 games last year against Iowa State and against Texas. We talked about this. He looked great against Iowa State. Texas was hit and miss. It was better than the box score. This was a good game without Jordan Tyson. And it could have been far better than it was. It really, truly could have been. This is something that needs to be celebrated, is that Sam Leavitt played a really, really good game, even without Jordan Tyson. And the passing attack as a whole looked much better than anybody would have thought. So let's go ahead and give him and Jeff Sims their credit. Jeff Sims came in late because Sam Leavitt was injured throughout the game. Not good news for Arizona State, and that has major ramifications for down the road. But Sims did more than enough. 6 of 11, 58 yards. He had a touchdown pass. That's more than enough that you can ask out of your backup quarterback to try and keep you in a game. And he certainly did. He certainly kept you in the game. Sing the praises of Jeff Sims. He did far better than anyone's expectations could have been. Good for him. All right. Number 2 of the good that came out of this game, the tight ends. We've been asking all year, and we have slowly started to see Shimon Mateer get more and more involved in the passing game. After the Texas State game, because against NAU he had 1 catch and he did not have a catch against Mississippi State. Ever since then, he has had at least 4 receptions in every game. He had 6 against Texas State, 6 against Baylor. The last 3 games, 4 catches in each of them. And there's been drops and there's been fumbles. Sure, he hasn't been perfect. He's been what we needed. He's averaging 11.2 yards per reception. That's much better than he was a year ago. The 2 touchdowns could be better, but I mean, a lot of those are going to Jordan Tyson anyways. It's hard to catch touchdowns when you're not getting looked at, and it's hard to get looked at when you're playing next to the best receiver in college football. But Shimon Mateer has stepped up. 25 catches, 281 yards, 2 touchdowns on the season. He had another good day, 4 receptions for 55 yards and another touchdown. He had a big chunk play for 27 yards. He should have had another touchdown. That was a one-handed grab. Like, he had a remarkable game. He did. Maybe his best game of the season for the Sun Devils. And unfortunately, box score-wise, it's not the best game. But he was good. Cameron Harple, he needs to get some more credit than what he's been receiving. And I have not been giving him his flowers this year. Going into the season, and based off of what I had seen throughout spring camp and what I had heard during training camp, was Kamari Anderson looked really, really good. He's big, he's athletic, he is a really good receiver. I was convinced he was going to be the number 2 tight end on this team, and he would be one of the top 5 pass catching options for the team. Did not expect that to be Cameron Harple. Did not expect Cameron Harple to be the number 2 tight end. In fact, when it was announced, I was more disappointed with Anderson than I was impressed with Harple. That wasn't fair. But the last 2 weeks, Texas Tech, 4 catches, 21 yards. Okay, it's not that impressive, but he had a crucial conversion during the game. And he's just a reliable guy when he gets the targets. In this game, 2 catches, 24 yards, and a touchdown. He had a 21-yard catch. He had a touchdown reception near the back of the end zone. He is really stepping up right now for the Sun Devils, and it is not getting talked about enough. Because, again, the offense has been predicated around Jordan Tyson, and the great things that he does. Good things happen when you throw the ball to Jordan Tyson. What a surprise. But ASU has just struggled to get other guys involved this year. There's 27 catches for Malik Brown, but he's averaging under 6 yards per reception. Shimon Mateer has 25 receptions. And after that, it really is not much else that's going on. Malik McClain had 6 going into the game, and then he caught 7. Cameron Harpole was the what's it end up being? The fourth highest on the team in receptions going into last week with 8. I mean, there's just not a lot of guys that are getting involved. And on the surface, you look at Harpole's season, 10 catches, 77 yards, a touchdown. It's not a lot. And I'm not going to pretend and I'm not going to gaslight you into thinking that that's a massive season. It's not. But the last 2 weeks, when he is called upon, he has stepped up. And that is worth more than nothing. So shout out to Cameron Harpole, because this was a really good game for him, even on 2 catches. And last week's 4-catch performance with some big ones, including a 3rd down conversion. We need to give Cameron Harpole more credit than what he's currently getting. And this is a guy who, going into the season, had 8 career catches. Last year for the Sun Devils, he had 1 catch for 17 yards. So he has stepped up. He has definitely stepped up the last 2 weeks. Hopefully, he will continue to find a way to be reliable in the passing game and be reliable from the tight end position, which ASU is getting more involved. But we just aren't seeing Kamari Anderson enough. AJE is not getting on the field. I don't know how many games he's registered on special teams, but I imagine he is headed towards a red shirt, and Jaden Fortier has just been injured. He hasn't been able to get on the field. So for Cameron Harpole to be playing as well as he has, considering what he is being asked, that's worth something. Give him some credit. Shimon Mateer has been playing well. I am happy to see the tight ends getting involved, and I certainly thought this was a big week for the tight ends who had both of ASU's offensive touchdowns. Well, just touchdowns, period. You know what I mean. All right, the third good that came out of this game is, for what it's worth, it was a mostly impressive 4th quarter comeback. Unfortunately, one 4th quarter comeback does not make up for 45 minutes of the game. But I just want to take a look at it because it stood out. And I remember watching the game and I'm like, don't give me hope. Like I felt like Hawkeye / Ronin in Endgame, where Natasha, Black Widow, is talking to him about undoing the snap that Thanos had. And he just looks at her and he's in the rain and you can tell he's still crying, but he's like, don't do that. Don't give me hope. Don't give me hope. And that was me watching this game. When they start making plays, I'm like, don't do this to me, man. Just, I know it's a loss. Let me carry on. Don't give me hope. And that's what they did. They kept fighting. But the 4th quarter is when they really just kind of dug deep and they were like, enough's enough. It looked like this. The first drive that ended in the 4th quarter, 8 plays and a touchdown. Next drive, defense forced a 3 and out. When they forced a 3 and out, I was like, oh no, they're going to suck me in. They're going to get me believing. Those rat you-know-whats are going to get me believing. Next up, 8-play drive. Unfortunately, I had to settle for 3. Okay, well, I mean, it's a 14-point game. You're not completely out of it at this point. Maybe there's a chance. Next drive, Houston, 8 plays and a turnover on downs. Too many plays, but you got to stop on 4th down. And I'm like, stop. I can't do this to myself. Sam Leavitt ends up getting pulled. And at that point, you're like, okay, yeah, it's over. But then it's a 7-play touchdown drive with Jeff Sims. And I'm like, come on. I just want to stop believing. And then the defense forces a 6-play punt. And I'm like, we're going to win this game, or I'm just going to have my heart ripped out from under me. That's what ended up happening. After that, they just fell apart. They stalled out on downs, 4 plays, and That ended the game because Houston got back on the field under 2 minutes to go. ASU burned their timeouts, but Houston was able to take care of business. So it is what it is, unfortunately. And some undisciplined football led ASU to losing this game. We're going to talk about that coming up. But I do want to give credit to the way that the team responded in the fourth quarter. Too little, too late. You better believe it. 100%. If ASU won the game in the fourth quarter, you applaud that. But again, you sit there and you're like, well, what the hell happened in the first 45 minutes of the game? Where was this? That is the question I have. Where was this? And I would have had it even more so if they won the game. Like, you didn't need to stress us out this much. ASU has found a way to win this year in the tight games, which is all that matters. All that matters is that W in the column. That's all that matters. At the end of the year, when the Big 12 title race has wrapped up and they're looking at tiebreakers and everything, it doesn't matter how many tight wins you got or who you played at quarterback. You know who you are. All that matters is that win in the win column and the loss in the loss column. ASU has found a way to win this year. They almost found a way to win against Houston, even though they did not deserve to. That game was not as close as the scoreboard indicates. 24-16, that did not feel like a 24-16 game. But I rest my case. Let's go ahead and talk about the bad from this game. And there was a lot. The bad that came out of this game. How much time do we have? We're already 31 minutes in, and I might need another 31 minutes for this, but I won't keep you that long. I think the absolute biggest bad from this game was ASU just dropped the big moments. They were shut out in the first half. That in itself, that hasn't happened since Kenny's first game of his career at ASU against Southern Utah when we had the 2.5-hour weather delay. That's the last time ASU had been shut out in the first half. It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe what I was watching, but that's what happened. Opening drive of the game, Houston goes down the field. ASU holds them to 3. ASU, they're able to respond right up until they didn't. They missed a field goal. And at that point, you're kind of sitting there and you're like, uh-oh. Uh-oh. I don't feel good about this. I don't like this. I don't like this. Later on, they ended up having a fumble. I want to say the controversial thing. Sam Leavitt fumbled that football on that pass attempt. I know that the TV crew, first of all, they were terrible. Oh my god. I have never been closer to just muting the television and watching the game by myself. In fact, I wish that I had access to a radio station so I could have put on Tim Healy and Jeff Van Raphorst to call the game, because I could not stand the guys who were calling the game over the television set. But, that's on me. I'm sure there's a way to get it online, but neither here nor there. That was a fumble. I'm sorry. I know that a lot of ASU fans are going to be mad at me for that. It was a fumble. That ball was coming out of his hand before he finished the throwing motion. That happened against Mississippi State, too. There's a little bit of an issue this year with the ball security with Sam Leavitt. It's just something that's got to get fixed. It's something that's got to get worked on. It's coachable. End of the day, you fix it, you move on. But that was a fumble. I had no issue whatsoever with that being ruled a fumble. It was. And I'll tell you what, ASU fans, that was on the other end. That happened with Connor Weigman. You would have been screaming at the top of your lungs that was a fumble. Yeah, it can't be a one-way street. That was a fumble. And I'm sorry. I know that's not the popular thing, and I know a lot of you are going to be mad at me about it, and that's okay. I'll take it on the chin. That was a fumble. You just have to call it as it is sometimes. Call it as it is. That was a fumble. But that was just another miscue. Let's try again. That was just another miscue with this game. Later on in the game, they missed a field goal in the third quarter. And at that point, you're like, I thought we moved on from this. I thought that we figured this out, and we did not. And Jesus Gomez has been streaky this year. I know a lot of people are calling him like field goal Jesus, or maybe they do call him field goal Jesus. I don't know. But I know a lot of people have dubbed him that this year. That's not the case. Again, just call what it is. He is streaky. I do not trust him when he lines up for a field goal attempt, which is typical of hashtag college kickers. Man, ASU just has nothing going on with the kicking spot. And it feels like they haven't for years. They just don't have anyone that can reliably come out there and line up. And I go, I feel 80% good about this. I don't. It's 50-50 at best, even with Jesus Gomez. And Gomez on the season is kicking 73.9%. In college, that's not terrible. I get it. But he has missed from every range outside of 19 yards. He missed one from 20 to 29, one from 30 to 39, three from 40 to 49, and another from 50 plus. That's just not good enough. 17 of 23 for a kicker on a team that is trying or was trying to compete for a championship. That is not good enough. I do not trust him on a game-to-game basis. Maybe I'm alone, but maybe this will be the game that kind of reminds people that, hey, we still have not figured out the kicking situation. We certainly are just struggling on special teams, and I'll talk about that in just a second because that is on my bad list. Spoiler alert. And how many drops, how many missed opportunities were wiped away from the passing game. As good as Sam Leavitt performed, 270 yards, I feel it's not an exaggeration to say there was 100 yards passing that were left out there from misplays. I don't want to single out guys specifically. I don't, but Jaron Hamilton really literally dropped the ball when we needed him to catch a deep throw. And the defender made a really good play. I am not discrediting the defender at all. And I'm certainly not trying to tell Jaron Hamilton, you have to catch that every time. That's a tough play. That's a tough play for any receiver. This was a game that we needed the receivers to step up. I don't want to be that guy, but Jordan Tyson would have caught that. I don't want to be that guy. And Jaron has shown off some big plays. Texas Tech, he went over 100 yards. Let us not forget that just a week before, he was the hero of the game. He was awesome. And he is the deep threat for the Sun Devils. But they needed him to catch that pass. He didn't catch that pass. There were penalties that killed ASU. There were tons of other missed opportunities that weren't just drops that killed ASU. They simply missed their big moments, their big opportunities, and that's where games are won. In those 2, 3, 4 plays, those decide football games, and ASU did not get any of them to go their way, whether it was their fault, whether it was really good defense, or whether it was the officiating, and the officiating was a problem. ASU didn't get it done. All right, the bad number 2, Connor Weigman and his running was just unstoppable. Carried the ball 21 times. He was only sacked once. 21 times, 111 yards, 2 scores, including a 50-yard scamper early in the game. ASU has played 3 mobile quarterbacks, and they got killed by all of them. Devin Dampier demolished ASU. Will Hammond was held in check for about 2.5 quarters, maybe 3 quarters if you want. And then he came alive late. And Connor Weigman just put his helmet down and played some hard-nosed football, and he beat ASU. Connor Weigman beat ASU by himself. he was responsible for all 3 of their touchdowns. Props to their tight end, Tanner Koziel, I believe is how you say it. Apologies if I still messed it up. He also dominated. 6'7" tight end. He just looked like a power forward out there. ASU's DBs just could not match up with him. But Weigman dominated, and he killed it on the ground. Really funny, when he was coming out of high school, he was considered a pocket passer, 5-star pocket passer. And with Houston, he is a wrecking ball. I mentioned that going into the game. He runs so much harder and more physical than what the stature would suggest. I have not seen him and Blake Bell, the Belldozer, in the same room together. I'm not trying to start a conspiracy here, but Connor Weigman punished ASU. They have struggled with mobile quarterbacks this year. Connor Weigman is not the fastest quarterback they've seen this year, but he might be the most physical, and he was punishing ASU for 60 minutes. They could not stop him. He continued to convert every down that was ahead of him. He scored twice as a runner. Props to Connor Weigman. He showed up in this game, and he single-handedly won it for Houston. And keep in mind, Houston played a good game. They played a complete game. They ran for 183 yards. They passed for 201. Their defense shut out ASU for 3 quarters. Houston won that game in all 3 phases. But Connor Weigman won it by himself at the same time and in the same token. So ASU just no answers for Connor Weigman. The bad number 3 is the special teams is just killing ASU. We won't waste too much time on this because we already talked about Jesus Gomez. But Canyon Floyd, I understand he's banged up. This has been a problem for ASU for years. Is their inability to be good on special teams. They cannot flip the field punting. There are way too many miscues. How many big returns were wiped out in this game by penalties, blocks in the back and holds and just the whole like of it, man. Like, these are simple things that are going wrong for ASU on special teams. I know that special teams coordinator Charlie Raggle is stepping away from the team for health concerns. That is verified. That's not speculative. He's got some serious stuff. Seriously hoping the best. I send him my best. I send him my thoughts and my prayers. I hope that he is okay. I understand it comes at a very suspicious time because people, including myself, were calling for his job. He's got to be fired. He's not doing enough. And I stand by that. But I will not sit here and try and overlook the fact that he does have something going on. And I hope that he's okay. But beyond that, ASU has got to get their special teams figured out because they're losing football games right now. The bad number 4 is Sam Leavitt was pulled. He was taken to the locker room early. He did not finish the game, even though ASU was attempting a comeback. Felt like the game was out of their hands. I don't think anybody was expecting Jeff Sims to go down the field and score a touchdown. But he got pulled. He's already missed a game this year due to injury. Who knows what his status is going to be going up against Iowa State this weekend. That's not good. That ASU is still dealing with some nicks and bruises and bang ups for Sam Leavitt. They do not have the depth at quarterback. Jeff Sims has been around college football for the better part of a decade. He is not going to win ASU games. ASU is going to need to win games from everything else. And after him, there's not much else that's proven. In fact, there's nothing else that's proven. If Sam Leavitt is not healthy for the rest of the year, ASU season is done. They just proved that they can compete without Jordan Tyson. They lost, but they competed. ASU is 0-2 when Sam Leavitt does not play. And I do not see them winning any games without Sam Leavitt. It's too tall a task. Hopefully he's okay. When he got slammed down in the first part of the game, I thought that he just got the wind knocked out of him right up until he went to the medical tent, and then they took him to the locker room. I don't know. He came back into the game because he is tough as nails. Hopefully, this is not a long-term thing. Side note with the bad before we proceed to the major takeaways. I've mentioned the officiating, dude. It was so bad. And honestly, it was not good for either team. But ASU got hosed. They really did. They were called for 12 different penalties, some that erased points from the board. It was bad, bad officiating. There is no other way to word it. This was a miserable performance. Fans were throwing stuff onto the field. They were so irritated. And I'm sitting there watching the game and I'm like, look, I get it. I get being that angry. You can't do it. I'm not justifying that, but I do understand how irritating that is. It was so bad, dude. It was so bad. Houston had some bad calls too. It went both ways. But man, was it hard not to think that the officiating was skewed against ASU. I am not saying it was. I do not like being that guy. It is hard to sit there, look at that game, and go, how is that not against ASU? I don't know. That was a tough game. Tough game from top to bottom. We didn't need to play the officials, and we certainly did. It was not 11 on 11 in that game. It felt like it was 22 plus the refs on no one because ASU was beating themselves. They were playing the refs, and Houston came to play a physical football game. Let's go ahead and wrap this bad boy up with the major takeaways. Major takeaways from this game. Number one, ASU caused way too many self-inflicted wounds. And we have seen ASU just commit those same things throughout the season. Bad interceptions, inability to convert downs, poor play calling. Just it's been there all year. ASU has found a way to win a lot of games this year. They did not do it in this game. Those self-inflicted wounds can just be too much. ASU couldn't get it done in this game. Major takeaway number two, stopping the quarterback run is the defense's Achilles heel. We've seen it for 3 straight games. We still have mobile quarterbacks on the table here for ASU to play. It's not going to get any better. They're going to need to go into the offseason and fix it. They have got to add guys in the transfer portal who know what they're doing against the mobile quarterbacks because it's not present on this roster and it's not going to get fixed. This was the game that they needed to show the most growth. You saw some really good things against Texas Tech before it fell apart, and they could not do anything against Connor Weigman. It is what it is. Major takeaway number 3, Jordan Tyson means a lot to the passing game, but not everything as long as Sam Leavitt is healthy. That's your caveat, but I would tell you what this game showed me is Jordan Tyson's about 80 to 85% of the passing game. That's a lot. It certainly is. But they still had a really good game without him. 270 passing yards from Sam Leavitt is nothing to scoff at. And 328 total passing yards is a great day without the best receiver in football. That is a good performance. That is a performance that should be applauded. Takeaway number 4. Special teams is ASU's greatest weakness, and it will lose them games. Now, look, you miss 2 field goals. That's 6 points. ASU still loses the game 24-22. But that also places you in situations where you're playing more comfortably and you're not going for 2-point conversions that fail. This is a game that is much more manageable if ASU is able to have have their PATs and have their field goals mean more than what they did in this game. There were points left up. Punting is a problem. They cannot flip the field, and it puts the defense in very difficult situations. And the defense has stepped up considering what they have faced this year. But this is an ongoing issue, and it's not getting better. Special teams is losing the Sun Devils football games this year. They are having big returns wiped out by penalties. Every time something happens on special teams, I am looking for yellow laundry on the field because I am expecting a flag. And more often than not, there's a flag out there. Special teams is losing games for the Sun Devils. Takeaway number 5, and this is the final takeaway here, is ASU is good enough to compete. We've seen that. They cannot rely on the late game rallies to be the reason they win this game. It is as simple as that. ASU has found a way to win. It is so difficult to win one possession games every single week. It is so difficult to win games based off the fourth quarter. It is so difficult to win games based off of 1 or 2 drives. ASU has been on the winning and losing side of that this year. This was a preventable loss. Mississippi State was a preventable loss. They could have won those games. They got embarrassed by Utah. But you know what? That's a 7-1 record. And that is a team that is still in control of its destiny to the Big 12 title game. Almost completely in control. But they have been reliant on those late game comebacks this year way too much. And it caught up with them. This cannot be the formula to success for the remainder of the year. It was always unsustainable. Fun to watch. Very exciting, very intense, emotional. This was not the way. Guess what? They found out that it was not the way. ASU is now 5-3, 3-2 in the Big 12. They are very much out of their control to get to the Big 12 title game. You can win out and go 4-0. That might not mean squat. Nope. You need a lot to happen. That is not the position ASU wants to be in. Mathematically, it's still possible. It is. But what's up next for ASU? They play Iowa State this weekend. Iowa State is banged up. They are not playing good football. They have been exposed for the injuries that have piled up for them. But you're going to Ames in November, and you are going to be taking on a very pissed off Cyclones team based off of what's happened recently and based off of the way that you embarrassed them in the Big 12 title game last year. Iowa State has a chip on their shoulder. This is a game that going into the year I was nervous about. Right now, I'm a little less nervous because Iowa State is just not playing good football. But I am nervous because ASU is playing losing football right now. This game decides your season. Flat out. A 4th loss overall and a 3rd loss in Big 12 play decides everything. It already feels like the season is over. That's the beauty of college football. It's beautiful and it's heartbreaking is you can know that your season is worthless by the halfway point of the year. ASU still has 4 games left on their schedule, and it doesn't feel like there's much there. It does not feel like there's a lot left to play for simply because of how much is out of ASU's control. They still have a path to the college football playoff. They still have a path to the Big 12 championship game. But boy, oh boy, is it minuscule. And I don't like ASU's chances right now. I think they can win out. I'll be predicting them to win out. ASU's schedule is just soft to end the year. This is worst case scenario that ASU has found themselves in. But, we'll talk about that later up on the show. We'll have a game day preview. At the end of the week, we have to talk about recruiting. We have to talk about Kenny Dillingham and the landscape of college football. That'll be up this week as well. To make sure you don't miss it, hit subscribe on YouTube and turn on your notifications. If you appreciate the content, hit the like button, leave a comment. I appreciate you guys. I make sure to respond to all the comments. Audio is coming soon. Should be up by the end of the week. I appreciate you guys for bearing with me while I have gotten that figured out. It has not been fun, but still appreciate you guys all the same. I'll catch you later. Have a good day. This has been, and always will be, Devil's Advocate with Richie Bradshaw. Take care.